Okay, so we're recording, but we haven't got the live signal yet. There we go. A little delay here. And I want to welcome everybody to Crew Conversation, weekly Crew Justice Weekly Conversation, powered by WTI, hosted by Herman, Lindsey. Today we're going to have a good show. It's a good friend of mine, Executive Director of FADP, Floridians, it's the alternative to death penalty. Today, I haven't told my story to anyone yet, so I'm gonna take a couple of seconds to tell people who I am and what I do. I am Florida's 23rd death row exoneree. Back in 2006, I was arrested for a murder that I did not commit. In 2009, I was actually became the first case in history with where all 7 Florida Supreme judges ruled that I should have never even been convicted. What I do, I am Florida's 23rd death row exoneree. Oh, I have a technical difficulty because I put Facebook on. And I want all those ones that view this to actually go ahead and share the video, because the more shares we get, the more we are actually being able to get this information and this education out there to other people. And invite your friends and let everybody know on Thursdays that Herman is doing the show. For y'all that support me, especially y'all in the hood that support me and the communities, even the legislators that's on my page, we like to get this information out. So we're gonna start it off. Mark, can you hear me, Mark?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna start it off. Tell people a little about yourself and the organization that you're working for.
Well, my name is Mark Elliott. I'm the Executive Director of Floridians for Alternatives to the Death Penalty, and it's the statewide organization that represents a coalition of individuals and groups throughout Florida united to end the death penalty. And it's a great group of people. I think the right people with the right tools can do anything. And there's just so many good people involved in this movement, all through and through. It's just such a pleasure to work on this, even though it's a difficult project. The reason I'm doing this, 20 years ago, I went to a vigil across from the state prison at the time of execution. And there's a saying, that the more you know about the death penalty, the less you like it. And for me, that was true. And for a lot of people, it's true. It can be a process. And that works well for us, because anytime you're working on an issue where the truth is what you're trying to get out there so people can make informed decisions, it's always good. And so when I found out more, it was like Senator John Lewis said, if you see something wrong, do something. And so I've been trying to do the best I can ever since I found out about what the reality was. But I get to work with some of the most amazing, spectacular people on the planet, so that really makes it rewarding.
So I have another guest that has also joined me. He's telling me to hold on, so I get to do something. So he's getting it. I call him Joe. His name is Joaquin Martinez. He's also a Florida death row exoneree. So I would like to ask Joe if he's prepared. Can you tell people a little bit about who you are?
Hi everyone. I am Joaquin Jose Martinez. I was incarcerated on Florida death row, and I was released in 2001. thanks to a lot of support, thanks to a lot of organizations and many people that worked hard next to my parents and made it possible for me to be here today in Spain. I'm the first Spaniard and first European to be released.
Did we lose sound with him?
Herman?
Yeah, okay, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I got a glare problem with the light behind me. I'm trying to remove it, but I guess we're gonna just stick with it just the way it is. I'm sorry, guys.
So, Joe, I was letting Mark introduce himself. For people that don't know, FADP is a partner. It's like a sister brother thing with the Innocent. They are mainly based in Florida. I am now on the board of directors with them. Also, I'm the secretary of board for Witness the Innocent. And you know, we really try to get out there. Our main purpose is to educate the public, so people to understand the depths of the death penalty and why it should be abolished. We have, since I've been speaking since 2009, you know, it's been a dramatic change as far as voting for the death penalty. A lot of people choose now not to vote for the death penalty when before it was so plain and clear people wanted the death penalty. So, Mark, I was wondering, why did you get started in the work that you were doing?
Well, I felt compelled to do it. It was one of those things in life, sometimes something just kind of strikes you and you know that you have to do something. And that's what this was. And I want to thank you, Herman, for inviting me on this show. I love it that it's a Florida show at Joaquin. You got you, me. That's we haven't been together since Montgomery, Alabama, almost 2 years ago, the three of us. So, you know, there's so many problems in Florida that they're just impossible to ignore. And Witness to Innocence is such a close partner organization of ours. Their work is so critical. The people are so awesome. It's really rewarding and fun to work with Witness to Innocence. They walk the walk and talk the talk. They do what their goal is and their mission, and they do it very, very well. And the voices of exonerees are so important. I know for me, if I supported the death penalty and found out that there was one innocent person somehow on death row, that would be it for me. There's no way I could support a program that could happen. And not only has it happened, it happens again and again and again and again. And so your voices and your integrity and your ability to communicate and just help people, to educate people and make them aware of the reality with the death penalty, it's just huge. It's huge. So thank you both.
Dr. Joaquin, I'm gonna ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Could you tell us what was some of the factors that played in you being wrongfully convicted for a murder that you did not commit and sentenced to death?
Well, I think one of the main factors was, to begin with, was believing in the system. You know, I'll be quite clear with you. Apart from everything else that occurred in my case, concerning a witness, my ex-wife's testimony, and other factors, the main thing, I guess, and I attribute it to myself, is actually believing in the system. You know.
Did we lose him again? Well, I'm gonna go ahead. I think we lost him. He's completely gone. you know, in my case, I think society is responsible for wrongful convictions, you know, because in my case, they did not put any evidence presenting me to the scene, any evidence saying that I committed the crime. They just relied on what was called a jailhouse snitch and said that I confessed to him in a jail cell, a Brown County holding cell, not a jail cell, but a holding cell. And with that, the state
Sorry.
death. With that, the state seek death in my case. And, you know, it was horrifying sitting there thinking that I'm going to die for something I didn't do. Are you back?
1 second, Herman. I'm having sound issues. It's incredible. Can y'all hear me like this perfectly?
Yeah, I can see you.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That's it's the thing with the telephones is you can't count on them, you know. Yeah, as I was before, I'm sorry for you know, it's incredible that these things happen, and especially to me because I'm a technician, you know, in IT, and it's amazing how many things happen to me on a regular day. I fix everyone else's problems, but I can't fix my own. You know, it's, as I was saying before, my main problem and what led me to death row, apart from circumstantial evidence, as they call it, and false testimony, was my belief in the system. I really believed that I would never wind up on death row. I hired my personal attorney, an attorney that didn't have the ability to carry on such an important trial. And you know, apart from all this, there were so many things that took place, such as a recording, testimony, like I mentioned earlier, from my ex-wife, different facts that made it possible for them to take me to trial and sentence me to death. You know, something I still can't believe today. Actually, I do believe it in some ways because I see other cases, as yours and others, and I see what the prosecutorial misconduct has done to them as well as they did to me. So I never thought I'd end up on death row, Herman. I really didn't. Believe me when I say this, you know, and it's just like, I don't think any of the friends, you know, our friends that from death row, any of them thought they would end up, but I never in a million years imagined there. Never, you know. I really believed in the system, Herman. I believe that justice will prevail, and everything else that we read and everything else that they teach us in school, and it wasn't that. It wasn't so.
Your conviction, just like mine, was in Florida. What number of exoneree are you, if I'm not?
I think I'm 97. 97. 97, I believe.
The one here in Florida. For Florida.
My released 97,
no,
I believe.
Like I'm the 23rd person to be exonerated from death row here in Florida.
Oh,
do you know the number?
I think I'm the 17th.
17th.
I'm not too sure. Yeah.
Right now, Florida leads the nation with 29, possibly 30 coming up death row exonerees. Now, that number is to most people are bad numbers because it's like that's 29 innocent people that could have been wrongfully executed. But we also got to look at the bright side is that that's also 29 people that the system and organizations such as FADP, Witness to Innocent Project, went in and took on cases to actually bring these innocent people out. And they're constantly working on those type of things every day. So we got to look at the positive side of that. But for you, Mark, I have the question of how bad is the problem here in Florida? I know you keep track with a lot of data and stuff like that. I even have to come to you for information. How bad is the problem here in Florida?
Well, unfortunately, Florida, as far as the use of the death penalty, in many ways is the worst of the worst. We have the second largest death row in the nation with almost 350 people on death row. We are one of the heavy execution states. We're one of just a handful of states that executes multiple people year in and year out. Last year, it's not unusual, we led the nation in the number of new death sentences. And according to the Death Penalty Information Center, the same is true for the first half of 2020. We lead the nation in new death sentences. And then if you add to it that there's been 29 innocent people exonerated and released from our death row, then, you know, the picture becomes really clear that there's a major problem here and we need to make progress, and we're trying. You know, racial bias is such a big issue with the death penalty and throughout the criminal justice system. I think of the 29 people exonerated in Florida, 22 were people of color, and that's no accident. It's pervasive throughout the system. The primary factor for these death sentences, as you know, is the state attorneys. They're the ones that make the decision to seek death. They're the ones that can hold police officers accountable. They're the ones that make these decisions that are so important. And there's people talk about the school to prison pipeline. There's also a pipeline to death row, and it starts with the state attorney. So we hope people will get involved in finding out more about the state attorney in Florida. If you're in another state, your district attorney, whoever makes the decision to seek the death penalty, they need to hear from you. They don't hear that often from constituents. It's so important to email them, give them a call, and tell them how you feel about them seeking the death penalty. Public opinion has changed, but we have so many people in these, officials and that are just not aware of the change and need to hear from people. So it's so important. And you can go to our site. We have a page on Take Action with State Attorneys, and I think that link is going to be provided. There's ways you can do something about this at the beginning, where the door is first opened by the state attorney to seek death, and then it becomes a railroad, a runaway locomotive that ends up on death row. So that's the ticket here. That's what needs to be done.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to you, Jim. And this is something that I want people to understand. Being wrongfully convicted, how was it? How was the feeling, or how was it for you to be on death row, knowing that you're an innocent person and that our system is so broken that you may never even get a chance to prove your innocence? You're on mute.
You hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you now.
I didn't do anything. Here's my hand. I felt betrayed by the system, Herman. I felt that that everything that I believed in, everything I've put my hands in, everything that I've put my faith, my trust in, my family, and this, it didn't need to happen. It was all a lie. They sold me something that wasn't so. That wasn't true, I felt betrayed. That's the first thing I felt. I felt afterwards angry. I felt betrayed, not only by the system. At times I lost my faith. I gotta be clear. Yeah, I gotta say it the way it is. I said, how can this be possible? How can I be here? How can there be a God? How can there be values, family, system, law, justice, I felt betrayed by everyone. And initially, I felt alone. It was me against the world, you know. It was hard.
This sound going out a little bit. Okay, so Mark.
Yeah.
Can you, this is something very touchy right here. I learned some very interesting information concerning lynching here in the state of Florida. You know, you wouldn't actually believe it was happening back then, but you know, it's like Broward County had one of the worst things, which I'm gonna be planning to play individual like named Doc Williams. Mark, can you like give a people idea of how lynching and this execution death penalty is like sort of like the same, like a modern day lynching type thing? Can you give us a little bit history of lynching and what ties it in with the death penalty, or how is it tied in?
It's very much tied to it. And I've thought about, you know, how to describe and explain things and give the facts so that people can connect the dots. And the truth is, the dots are overlap each other. It's a straight line from lynching to the death penalty in Florida. We had at least 300 lynchings in Florida after Reconstruction from 1877 to 1950. We had the highest per capita rate of lynching anywhere in the nation for most of that time. It's when Florida became a state in 1845, and it's the first executions it was kind of surprising, were of white people. The first 4 executions were white people, and their crime was aiding a runaway slave. So if you want to talk about what the death penalty, why it was first instituted and all that, it was to enforce slavery. It was to reinforce the idea of white supremacy. That's what it was. And that's what lynching did. It was really to take over for that and make it more palatable to people. And, you know, giving someone due process, whatever that is, and making it legal. But today's executions are essentially legalized lynching. There's just no doubt about it. That's where it came from. In Florida, since territorial times, there's never been a white person executed solely for the killing of a black person. There was one person that was executed a few years ago that had multiple victims, and one of them was black, but no one has ever been executed out of hundreds and hundreds of executions. No white person for killing an African American, solely for killing an African American. I mean, that really tells the story right there of what it is and why it is. That's the important thing, why it is. And there's other factors that play into it, but it's the, you know, it's the tip of the iceberg on racial bias and how it affects the criminal justice system. It's the linchpin that holds together all the extreme abuse in Florida with sentencing. Florida sentences more children as adults than any state in the country. And again, that goes back to the state attorneys who make that decision. We're going to charge this child as an adult. So it's just, the death penalty is just emblematic of everything that is biased and wrong and extreme with our death penalty here in Florida.
You know, you mentioned something about Florida reenacted the death penalty back in 1976. Since then, we executed 99 people. Do you remember, Mark, how many executions had it been before they decided to actually execute a white man for killing a black victim? if I'm not mistaken, we was in the 70 or 80 marks when that happened, because I recall us going back to that execution. Do you remember about how many people have been executed before that?
Well, I think it's important to go back to when executions legalized, lynching started in Florida. You know, there were hundreds and hundreds of executions, and not one of those was a white person for killing a black person. So there was one finally where one of the victims was black, but there were multiple victims, and that was several years ago. So in the modern era, it was probably around 90, say, is a guess. But overall, it was, you know, who knows, number 400, 500. I mean, that's the way the reality of the system.
So, you know, and the thing about it is that, and you was along with me, Mark, on this, when we always used to be able to use that against the state, that they never killed a white man for killing a black victim. And then all of a sudden, you know, to stop us being able to use that as an argument against them, they decided to push this person forward to do an execution, which he wasn't even next on the list at the time. So what is being done about the death penalty in Florida now? I know we finally got a bill introduced. Actually, let's speak about it. Bills have been introduced every year, just about every year, concerning death penalty. But I think it was up to like three, 4 years ago that we actually got a real bill to abolish the death penalty and to take away the mechanisms of the death penalty. So, what is being done to end the death penalty here in Florida that you're aware of?
You know, it's the death penalty, how it works here, you know, there's three phases. There's the state attorney who decides whether to seek death. And we have actions now on our site to contact your state attorney and tell them that you don't want them to seek the death penalty. We had recently, the primary was just this week, and voters are becoming more educated about who the criminal legal system, who the criminal justice reform prosecutors are. And in 2016, we had 3 justice reform candidates be elected state attorney. It was huge. And just in this primary, we had from the same office a reform candidate elected, and in Broward County, for the first time in 40 years, a reform candidate was elected to be the lead prosecutor, the state attorney. These are advances. A lot of what we do is education and awareness. The state attorney has so much influence over the system, and we have the general election coming up, and there's important races there too, in Hillsborough County and other counties where a reform candidate is up for election or re-election. And this sends a signal all the way through the legislature and to the governor that people want reform. They don't want this tough on crime kind of knuckleheadedness about spending millions and millions of dollars and maybe killing innocent people and having this death penalty on the books. It's just not necessary. So the legislature is important because they craft the statutes. So the bill to end the death penalty, when it was first introduced, they had a hard time finding one co-sponsor. And just this past session, there were, I think it was 24 sponsors and co-sponsors of a bill to end the death penalty in Florida. So that's progress. We still need some Republicans on board, but that'll come. And as far as the governor in Florida, the governor is really the one that makes the decision on who's going to be executed next and if they're going to be able to receive clemency. So the governor is another person that letters have come in from organizations and from people to the governor, and that's very important as well. The system in Florida is not transparent whatsoever about why someone is picked to be executed, who is picked, and how the process works. It's shrouded in mystery. So hopefully we can find out more about that.
So I'm gonna go to Joe on this. Joe, being part of the exoneration team here in Florida, things like that. We've joined organizations, worked with a lot of organizations. And like I say, both of us work with both these organizations a lot. It's always a pleasure when you come down. I'm looking forward to coming back to Miami next week or so, so I can have my beer open. Two. So, you know, the thing I wanted to ask you is that you left Florida, you know, and began living in Spain, but you continue to advocate against abolishing the death penalty. How have your journey been with that? Would you say that the speaking engagements that you've done has been a great influence on people to help change the votes? Help change the way of thinking about the death penalty. Give me your output on your feedback on that.
Well, for me personally, it's been a growing experience. You know, leaving death row, I felt I had the obligation to go everywhere and go to all the schools where my parents have been, to go to the countries and to meet the politicians and everyone that my parents have met, which were so many that you know, it was overwhelming at first. But it was an obligation, you know, initially. As time went by, the months and the years, and I began working together with you guys, with Witness, with all the other organizations. There's just too many to name right now. I noticed that there was a message that was getting through to the people, a message that not only I, but many others, exonerees especially, were able to get and were able to move people and change their ideas. You know, in the beginning, I recall, you know, and this is before death penalty, before any of this. You know, I don't recall too many organizations fighting against the death penalty. Actually, the ones or the groups that fought, the family members, when there was you know, an execution date or anything like that, I do recall those days because, you know, as you all know, and I have to say it, you know, back then I believed in death penalty. You know, I criticized those organizations. I was very critical of what they were doing. You know, for me, they were wasting time, you know. Thanks to them, thanks to you guys and many other organizations, I live today. So it's not just an obligation. It's, you know, it's part of my life. I wish I could dedicate as much time, even more time, as some of you guys do. I mean, the exonerees I've met, I mean, their life has become abolition, working against the death penalty. I mean, I say I wish because, you know, I have 7 children, you know, so it's been kind of difficult, especially since I was released. My life hasn't been that easy. Neither has that of many other death row inmates. But I must say it has been a growing experience for me. I love to work with you guys. I get emotional with you guys. I love going here. I love going there. I love hearing the stories of other people that made it as far as you and I did, Herman. It's, you know, that's what this is all about. You know, working together to end the death penalty. Not just the exonerees, but people like Mark and people out there that actually making a difference. You know, I'm sorry that back then those thoughts that I used to have. You know, I'm sorry that, and I'm glad that you guys didn't listen to me, because if you would have listened to me, I'd probably still be on death row. You know, you guys do make a difference, and I love you guys for it. I really do.
You know, one of the sad part about it, you know, through my journey of speaking, I like to face reality. And in reality, a lot of these things are happening because of the involvement with society, the way society looking at things. You know, it is bad that society look at people that's actually been convicted of a felony or been in prison or been in jail, and they look at them like they can't become a person of society. And that's one of the things that I pride myself in, because here it is, I'm exonerated because I'm exonerated from death row. Because the state made me a victim, they accept me in society a little bit more than they accept the ones that's coming out of jail and that needs the help. At the same token, for the ones that's been exonerated, that they actually made the victim, they don't even give compensation to. They had the bill for years that you can get compensation, but you got to jump through loops to get it. You got to go back to trial, go back to the courts and prove that you was innocent, that you didn't do it. How you gonna prove that? Then you know, you have the issue of the Clean Hands Act, where they were saying that if you had a prior conviction, you can't get compensation. But the thing about it, what they don't understand is that they're making every individual that go through their system and they get a conviction through, live a life sentence. Regardless whether we get exonerated of it or whatever, it's still in the background. You know, it's bad how they don't want, Florida do not want people to become members of society in a successful way, because they got so much blockage there. And I mean, you got to look at, we're looking at people that showing a prime example that if someone kills someone, it's against the law. It's considered a homicide. It's first-degree murder. So how are we going to show society we're going to act? We're going to sentence that person to death, but we're going to kill that person too. And when they kill that, execute that person, on the death certificate, it says homicide. So what mind thinking is it that you can take a person and say they committed this, so we're going to kill them? That's back like modern day lynching. But lynching used to be even more worse, because you could steal a pig and they'll lynch you. You could turn around and look at the wrong people and they will lynch you. So in society, the way the government is throwing it up, it's like lynching and the death penalty is okay, when it's only an act of revenge. I was reading in the Wicca about the beginning of justice, when they began the justice system, way back in the 18th centuries and stuff like that. When they began the form the justice system, their goal, what they used to do is take a person in front of the whole town and maybe take a whip and beat them with a stick for shame, just to make them shame of what they've done, so that they won't do it no more. Our people today say, we're not gonna make them shame, we just gonna lock them up and throw away the key. So Mark, I'm gonna come back to you, and you know, you speaking about these state attorneys, elections, and things like that. I want you to explain to people again how important it is to look at who they're voting for, and understand that the people that they vote for, they elect in the office, they have to hold those people accountable. I know I'm kind of like giving the answer though, Mark, but you know, it's just sickening. So what, can you explain to them one more time how it is important? Because I know we've dealt with a lot of this state attorneys and things like that. How important it is to vote and to see who you're voting for?
Well, it's pretty much everything. You know, we elect people, they're in office, they feel they were elected based on the will of the constituents. So they need to know the will of the constituents, and the number one way is by voting. The next way is while they're in office to contact them, email them, call their office, let them know how you feel about the death penalty and them seeking it. Let them know how you feel about extreme sentencing and charging children as adults. All these things that are so important about holding law enforcement accountable. You know, these are all things that if these are your goals, then you've got to vote. You've got to let these folks know, because the polls say that, you know, the majority of voters do not approve of the death penalty. They would rather see some kind of life sentence. I mean, it's the same way here and around the nation. It's almost 2-to-1, those that would rather see some kind of prison sentence for someone convicted of murder. But it hasn't translated, it hasn't been transferred to the people that make decisions. And the best way to do that is let them know. You can write a letter to the editor. It just is something that just needs to be constant, you know, just a banging on the door of justice, and to let them know that this is the will of the people and that's what people want. So contact your elected representative. When they do something that you approve of, thank them. If they support a bill to compensate an exoneree or to make compensation easier so that maybe some, very, very few death row exonerees have been compensated at this point. I think maybe 4 of 29. So when they do something good, thank them. It's just as important as criticizing them when they do something wrong, but both are important. These are just a few of the things. So one of the things, and Herman, I'll go back to a point you made just a moment or two ago. You know, the death penalty and killing people out of revenge, which is what it is. There's no real penological purpose for it. There's no redeeming value in executing a well-secured, locked-up prisoner. It's strictly political, whether it's state or federal. But, you know, having the death penalty and people glorifying it, that talk about it, execution was solemn. And these are people in leadership, governors, you know. It was solemn, it was dignified, and it was humane. And they're talking about, like you said, on the death warrant, it's a homicide. There's nothing dignified or humane about that. It's impossible. So we need to call them out for it and let them know. You know, we need to make good trouble. As John Lewis said, we need to make some good trouble. And the voting booth is the place to do it. Make your voice heard. Let people know. If you agree with them, let them know. If you don't, let them know. It's so important.
And I would like to add to that, it's very important that people know that once a person is elected in the office, there's some things that you can do to get that person in track. If that person is not doing the right thing. And one of the things is that, you know, you have to understand he's an elected official. But even though he's an elected official, he has people he has to answer to, and he has to worry about his political career. So when people stand together, such as they did in Jacksonville, when the faith leaders came together, the people came together, and they stood in front of the courthouse and saying they would not go for Angela Corey's stuff no more. They're not afraid of her. She's not holding the office right. She was railroading people, leading and sentencing to death. She was doing so much awful things. And the thing about it is that all it took to make the change was society came together. People came together. Faith leaders, the community, numerous of people. And then when they came together, other politicians stood by them, senators, state attorneys, and stuff. And that fight got great till when it came to time for her to be reelected, or when she was doing her job, she was getting scrutinized and she was getting heat from other political people to force her to either leave or do right. So it don't take a riot to do it. I don't not promote violence. I do not promote breaking up businesses. But I do say if we stand together in front of that office, you will see a change. Because this is the craziest thing I ever seen. You take your time out to go vote for a person, but you have an issue you want to talk to that person about. But you cannot get in the office to talk to them about it. What type of person that you vote for that won't even allow you in their office to talk to them? And I mean, you have to be careful who you are voting for and what you are voting for. You have to hold that person responsible. Now I need this. I'm getting short on time, so and I'm gonna bring this up about the accuracy of justice we have at Witness to Innocent, where we go out and we take 3 exonerees and an attorney facilitator, and we go into the state attorney's office and we sit there and have a forum. We answer questions, we tell our stories, we can even ask questions. And with that communication that's going about, we have seen a lot of state attorneys' office actually took a turn and for the better. And those state attorneys' offices that was kind of fearful or didn't want to speak out because they was kind of worried what people would say, they started stepping up. And changes has seriously begun in this justice system. So here at Witness Innocent, we have accuracy and justice for anyone that's interested into getting one of those forms to their state attorney, public defender's office, police departments, and many more. You can go on witnessinnocent.org and search the information to who you supposed to contact on that. But Mark, we have a few minutes left. Is there anything that you would like to add?
Well, I would like to second what you just said. The Witness to Innocence program, justice and accuracy, I've seen its effect in Florida with state attorneys' offices where they brought a group in and they've had discussions about this, and they met people who have been exonerated. And it's really made a big difference in at least 2 state attorneys I know, offices that I know of, and it's changed the whole tone and dynamic and accountability of prosecutors. So I would encourage people to contact Witness to Innocence, find out about the Justice and Accuracy program, because it works. It works. I mean, you would think prosecutors and people that work in this field would have a knowledge base of how it really works, but a lot of times they're just a cog in a machine. They really need to see the reality of it. And this program is so effective. So I would encourage everyone to do that. And in the days of COVID-19, there's less and less face-to-face, but Witness to Innocence has programs where exonerees can zoom in to a group or organization. And your voices are maybe the most powerful voices there are. To lift your voices, to have you speak to people in a church or organization it changes everything. It makes it real. And so I would ask people to contact Witness to Innocence to find out how to make arrangements for someone to speak to their group in a Zoom meeting or webinar or what have you. There's ways to go about it. So please do that.
How about FADP? How I know you have a lot of information on your website, and one of the things I want to encourage everyone to do is go on witnessinnocent.org website and FADP.org website and sign up for the newsletters. Which gives out information. And Mark, I'll let you take it from there.
Well, thank you, Herman, for that. And we have actions on our site, the site that people can take. We have downloadable information sheets with the kind of information that it's true and authentic. It's just getting it out there. and there's a lot of news and information. So fadp.org, go to the website, sign up for the newsletter. You don't get bombarded with extraneous things. It's when there's something important that you can take action on and get involved and really make a difference, because it's all of us working together to make this change. It's not anything any one person can do. It's all of us working together. So it's so important. Get involved in any way you can. You know, we have, it seems like a Florida show today, which it is. And I'm so really just beaming about it. It's so great that Florida gets some attention. But, you know, we have federal executions. We have one scheduled for the 26th, which is like Wednesday, I think. And there was a letter sent from 13 Native American tribes to try to grant clemency for the Native American who was convicted. There is no death penalty on tribal lands for people that belong to an Indian nation. But anyway, there's you can go to our site and click on a link about how to contact your member of Congress, how to contact your U.S. Senator, how to take the Action Network petition to petition the Congress to make the changes that are necessary to halt these federal executions. You know, there's nothing more dangerous than any national government that feels it has the right to decide who lives and who dies and can arbitrarily execute people. It's so dangerous. So please, that's a good way to take action and make the difference there. I would like to, one thing, I think we all have the same goal, and that is, you know, we see the words on the above the U.S. Supreme Court, equal justice under law. And those need to be more than words. We need to work so that equal justice under law is the reality, equal protection is the reality for us, all of us, and our families. That's a goal for all of us. And the death penalty just holds all these abuses down. Brian Stevenson of Equal Justice Initiative, and then I'll shut up, has a quote, is one of the few, I can't remember a long one, but this one has always struck me. And it's about the death penalty and life without parole. He said, only in a state where the government is intoxicated with the power to kill would a sentence of life without parole seem like leniency. You know, we have, I think, 10,000 people serving life without parole in Florida. And a lot of that's enabled by having the death penalty. So there'll be ripples all through the system if we can get rid of the death penalty, at least conversations about reforming the entire system, transforming the system, because that's what's needed all the way up and down. So thank you, everyone. Thank you. Herman, I love your show. I must say, it's so informative. People with true stories, like Joaquin, I mean, it's so awesome, man. That's the real deal. It's the real deal. Thanks.
Thank you for being on here, Mark. The second thing I want to talk about is that these organizations are completely nonprofit organizations. So they're 501c3. They work on grants and donations. They have great programs for to be able to go out and put the events on, and to, for instance, with the census, we have emergency funding for exonerees when we're in a time of need, and God knows they help me out a whole lot. And I'm sure Joe can tell you the same thing. Joe, you want to comment about that?
Well, I believe that what the work that Witnesses Innocence has been doing, not just with the exonerees, but with those still on death row, it's just amazing. I've since the first day that I heard of you, of the organization, I fell in love with you guys. It's amazing. I don't have enough words that I can say for what you've done for me. I feel like I'm apart from my family, I feel I have another family that's been by my side since I've been released. And that's an awesome feeling. I can only hope and wish that God gives you guys many years to keep on fighting the way you're doing, to be able to do what you're doing today, to have people work by your side like Mark and FADP and other organizations that are out there working to abolish the death penalty, you know. And I'll be quite honest with you, Herman. I get emotional thinking how it's possible that I can be here now, getting close to turn 50 years old, speaking against something that I was so in favor of. You know, it's amazing what work you've done and what work you continue doing. I'm proud to be a part of this great organization. I'm proud to be here with you today, Herman. You know, I love you, man, and I love Mark, and I'm glad to be a part of this show today. You guys are great. You've done. Couldn't even begin to let the world know everything that you've done for me personally. You've given me life, you know. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart, Herman, Mark, WTI group, and everyone out there. You know, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You know, I didn't believe that when I first got on death row, but as time has gone by and now I'm out here, I see that little by little we're going to finish with, you know, and end that death penalty. We're going to put an end to it. It's going to take some time, but the way you guys are going, you're gonna get there soon. I know it. I love you guys, really, man. You know I do.
And you know the interesting thing, I believe we're gonna get there too, because it's people like the ones that's tuning in to this show and, you know, going to the forums and taking the initiative to actually learn about the miscarriages of justice and actually trying to figure out what to do for them to help out. Those are the people that's helping pave the way. You know, we might be the faces that actually sit here on the screen and things like that, but the people that's viewing us and the people that's being involved are really the true champions. You know, we went through our experience, we had to suffer, but it's also it's equal to this in this fight to those that in the society that's putting together events, that's walking around talking about the miscarriage of justice and spreading the word about organizations and joining the organizations that make this fight so beautiful. You know, and that's my compensation within myself. But we only have a minute left, and I want to thank everyone for joining us this week. Next week, I think we have Deborah Exonerees right also in Florida, a good friend of mine. But I want people to understand that we doing this, but we do need donations. We do. I hate asking, but we really do need donation because we have limited. It's the coronavirus round. We are limited to our emergency funds that helps the exonerees at times where, you know, their lights might be off. WTI go ahead and pay for them and things like that. So your money is not just going one place. It goes to actually help. Imagine living a life like I do, where you fill out an application and you get denied a job because of something you didn't do, even though you got exonerated. People think that you was involved with a murder, you know, things like that. You know, think about you can't get life insurance because you in this same case, even though it says you've been exonerated. Think about you can't get an Airbnb account because of that. You know, and that background check is playing a major role in our life that putting a serious blockage. And we sometimes depend on these speaking events and depend on calling witness to innocent and asking for help and never being able to help. Also, I know I'm a witness innocent child, but I also have to thank Mark because through life of this speaking and stuff, FADP reached out and helped me out plenty of times. Also, and they're all able to do this by the little simple small donations that we get. So, you know, if you can, you know, if you want to sponsor an event, they help out, or you want to donate funds, they help out. You know, all of that is very welcome, very welcome. So with that said, I don't went over time, even though it's Facebook time. We have time. So I want to thank everybody for joining. If you want to reach out to me at any time, my email is hermanforjustice, HERM, the number 4, the word justice @gmail.com. You can go on witnessinnocent.org website, or you contact FABP. Reach out to me. You know, and I want to thank everybody for coming today. And I'm now going to end my Cruel Justice weekly conversation powered by WTI weekly show. And I hope to have some more viewers next week. And I'm hoping that you will tell people about it and this show. And even if you're not able to, just go ahead and take it and share it. And ask some of your other friends to share it and share it, because the more information we get out there, it's better. Because I'm gonna leave with this saying: our justice system has never wrongfully convicted anyone. And people may look at me crazy when I say that, but they have never wrong. Our justice system has never wrongfully. It's the peers that has wrongfully convicted us. It's the jury that came back with the verdict of guilt. It's the jury that recommended death. And if we can get the jury to understand that how important it is for them to be on jury duty, because they're judging a person's life, how important it is that the death penalty shouldn't be used. That itself is bringing in change. And that is very important. And how we get that message out? We get that message out by sharing. So everybody share, and I thank you all for joining me. Thank you, Joe. I look forward to my 2 beers this week.
3, because Mark will be there with me.
All right.
I want to thank my staff in the background, Jenny, Allison, Mary Kate. They told me don't ask them no questions and put them on the spot this week, so I'm not going to do that. Thank IED, Harry Bloodworth, chairman of the board, donors at the UN, and many others, Elizabeth with the Century Foundation. I just want to thank everybody that's making all this possible, and hopefully this show will grow next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Herman.